Chapter 14. The next morning, I was headed across the courtyard on my way to work, when I heard footsteps approaching. I looked around and saw Devon stalking across the grass toward me, anger clear on his face. I stopped and waited for him. "What's wrong?" I asked when he got close enough I wouldn't have to shout. "I was gonna take my bike to your folks this morning, but I got out there and found that someone took a baseball bat to it." "Oh no. I called your brother, he'll be here soon. I wanted to check on you though. Make sure you are okay and that your car hasn't been vandalized too." "I'm fine, but let's go check my car." We walked together out to my car and looked it over carefully. "I don't see anything," I said. "Do you want me to stay with you until Rain gets here?" "No. Go ahead. There's no need for you to be late. I can file the report with him and then take the truck in. I'll call your dad while I wait and let him know I'll be late." "That sounds like a good idea. I'll see you this evening then." I stretched up and gave him a quick kiss before climbing into the car and leaving. I couldn't get the damage to Devon's bike off my mind through the day. When I went out to pick up lunch, I looked around, wondering if I was being watched and what would happen next. By the end of the day, I had stressed about it until I could barely think. I was barely aware of where I was going as I drove to Bill's after leaving the office. I pulled up in front of the familiar house and sat for a moment, trying to pull myself together enough to make sense. I didn't know if I could take any more of Brandon's crap, and I had little doubt that Brandon was behind the destruction of Devon's bike. I knocked on the door and waited. I expected Terry to answer because I'd recognized his aging SUV in the driveway. I was pleasantly surprised when Karen opened the instead. "Hello, Nickie," she smiled. "Come on in." "Hello." I smiled back, stepping into the house. I was expecting Terry. "He's busy with Bill at the moment." "Oh," I said, disappointed. I was hoping I could talk to Bill. "Is something wrong?" "Actually, yes." "Why don't we have a seat in the living room, and you can tell me what's going on?" She led me into the room. I took a seat on one end of the sofa and waited while she sat before I began. "I don't know how much Bill's told you about the trouble I've been having with Brandon." "I'm aware of it." She nodded. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to imply that you don't. It's just that I've been talking to Bill, and I don't know how much of it he's shared." I looked down at my hands folded together in my lap, then back up at her. "Do you know if Bill's talked to Devon today?" Karen nodded. "As a matter of fact, I do. Devon called early this morning and let Bill know what had happened." I took a deep breath and let it out slowly, a weight lifting off my chest. It hadn't occurred to me this morning to make sure Devon would call Bill, and I hadn't been able to reach him this afternoon. Good. I came by to make sure Bill knew about it and to ask for help. I was all right with everything when Brandon was pestering me, or it was just notes. But this is the second time that they've destroyed something of Devon's, and I'm not sure how much more I can put up with. I knew I sounded a bit hysterical, but things had gotten to the point I was afraid to leave the office for lunch. I refused to live like this, not if I could do something to stop it. Especially if it was something as small and simple as asking for help. "You don't have to take it, Nickie," she said. "You're not the only one who's had enough." "Oh?" I asked. "Bill called Brandon in this morning. He gave him 24 hours. 24 hours? I was confused. 24 hours to pack and leave. He's been banished. Oh. I didn't know what else to say. I felt bad for his parents, but I couldn't help being glad he wouldn't be around to harass me any longer. What does that mean exactly? It means he's no longer allowed in our territory. He has to find somewhere else to live. But what about his family? I had to ask. They're welcome to stay, but if they want to see him, they'll have to go to him. With the possible exceptions of major illness or death in the family, he won't be allowed back even to visit. I took a deep breath while I thought about that. I let it out in a rush. I wish I could say that I'm sorry it's come to this, but I just can't help feeling relieved. I've been worried about what he would do next and if he would try to hurt my parents to get to me. You don't have to worry about that anymore, Karen said gently. But what about until he leaves? Bill has an enforcer following him. He won't go anywhere without our knowing about it, and by noon tomorrow, he'll be gone. That's great news. I sat for a moment, letting the news sink in, and trying to regain my composure after the weight suddenly lifted off my shoulders. How are things going with you and Devon? Karen changed the subject. Great, we're doing really well. His mom's finally stopped trying to set him up with every girl she can think of. He's appreciating that. How are you handling the possessive streak? It's not bad, I said. Karen lifted one brow as if challenging the statement. It's not. It surprised us with Gabriel, but he thought we'd been dating before. We got that straightened out. Anything else? She asked. We're still negotiating some difficulties with the enhanced strength, but it's nothing we can't handle, I said carefully, not wanting to say too much and embarrass us both. He freaked out about bruising you, didn't he? She grinned. I nodded, my cheeks pinkening at the memory. He didn't hurt me, but it freaked him out that he'd done it, and that I'd let him. How long did it take for the bruises to fade? I shrugged. A few hours. Did that help him deal with it? I'm not sure, but it seemed like as long as there were bruises, he felt guilty. Karen nodded. He probably doesn't realize that it's not just the enhanced strength that's responsible. Even if he'd shifted as a teen and was completely in control of his strength, he'd likely bruise you sometimes. I scowled, confused. That doesn't make sense. It wouldn't, if it was an issue of controlling his strength, but it's a mating thing. She'd piqued my curiosity with that. Is it something that will pass if we seal the mating? Thankfully, no. She smiled again. Though some things may change. Like what? I asked, adding, if it's not too personal to ask. Not at all. She smiled warmly. I started healing faster. In fact, both of our healing speed increased after we sealed our mating. There are other things too, but I'll let you find those out for yourself. I couldn't help but smile back, despite my embarrassment. Thanks for letting me know. I'll share it with Devon, but not until the time is right. I gave her a secretive smile. Karen laughed. I don't know how much longer Bill's going to be. Do you want me to have him call you? No, I'm good. I just wanted to make sure he was aware of everything and ask for some help, but it's already taken care of. Thanks for that. Really? No problem, it's just part of the job, she assured me. I guess I'll head home, see what we need to do about the bike, and if there's anything we can salvage. Let us know if you need anything, she said, getting up to walk me out. We said our goodbyes and I left, heading to Devon's apartment to see what he'd learned today. I discovered when I got to Devon's that the police had taken the bike with them, and Devon had already contacted his insurance company. It looked like it was going to be a total loss. How long do you think it'll take to get the money? I asked from where I laid on Devon's couch, my head in his lap. A week or two, maybe as long as a couple of months if I don't push. Have you looked at what a replacement will cost? Not yet. He shook his head. A bike was convenient while I was gone. I never needed to haul much, and it was no problem to get transported when I was transferred. Now I have the truck. It's more practical here. I'm not sure if I should replace it. It's up to you, but I'll miss it if you don't get another. Me too. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. We spent the evening together, watching a film and just enjoying each other's company. Before it got too late, I went home to bed.